the abortion is a very good issue for white people because even though they may have fewer children, they use up most of what is produced in the world. Someone pointed out that we are 6% of the population, I mean, speaking of the West, and we use up 60% of the world's energy. Now, most of that is really white people, middle class and upper class white people. So they really should, I mean, it's very important for the planet that they limit the number of children that they produce, because we can't keep supporting, big houses and cars and furs and whatever for all of these people. I mean, that's just a reality.
Welcome to the 11th Hour. I'm Robert Lipsyte. A lot of people think Mother's Day is a bogus holiday, a marketing ploy. But there's nothing bogus about mothers. So we invited a writer who's created some of the most fascinating mothers in contemporary fiction, Alice Walker, author of The Color Purple, and most recently, The Temple of My Familiar. Alice Walker was the youngest of 8 children. Alice Walker described her mother as a large, soft, loving-eyed woman. She worked beside her husband in the Georgia fields. She was creative with her sewing needle, in her kitchen, in her garden. Alice Walker's a mother, too. Her daughter, Rebecca, was born to Alice and Mel Leventhal, a Jewish lawyer she met while working in the civil rights movement in Mississippi. They've since divorced. Rebecca is 19 years old now, a sophomore at Yale. Like many mothers and daughters, Alice and Rebecca marched together last month in the pro-choice demonstration in Washington, D.C., and they're with us now. Welcome.
Thank
Rebecca,
you. Yes.
Do you think Mother's Day is a bogus holiday?
No, I don't think the celebration of mothers is a bogus thing to do. I think that the problem with Mother's Day probably is that it focuses on one day of the year to appreciate mothers, when probably we should do it all year round.
Do you appreciate your mother every day of the year?
Every day of the year. Every moment of the day. I think because my mother is the one person whom I completely and fully trust, and feel completely and fully trusts me and knows me, and is willing to let me do and be whoever and whatever I want, and trust me enough to know that those will be good things that I'll be doing and being.
That's wonderful. Alice, did you feel the same way about your mother?
Oh, yes, yes. I have great love and respect for my mother. She was very strong and also very gentle, very forthright. And I learned so much from her. I learned about, things about how to be in the world, and about how to care for other people from my mother.
Was Mother's Day a holiday that was celebrated in rural Georgia when you grew up?
I don't think so. Mm-hmm. I don't think so. I think for me it's sort of a latter-day invention. I don't remember that there was a Mother's Day. Only later, when I was a teenager, I remember that my older brothers would send my mother these huge, beautiful cards each year. But we tended to think of Mother's Day. Actually, now that I think of it, what we did on Mother's Day was to go to the cemetery and place flowers on the graves of our mothers, on my mother's grave. Mm-hmm. And we wore red roses if our mothers were alive, and white roses if they had died. Mm-hmm. That's what we did.
That's lovely.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that really struck me is your fear, your early fear, that somehow your creativity would be sapped. Is that correct, by a child?
Oh, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, because we're taught that if you have a child, that is your creation. You then are not expected to write books. You're split. And that's what I was afraid of when Rebecca was born. I just didn't know. I mean, there I was with Rebecca in one arm and writing with the other hand. And I just didn't know if I could do both things. But then I started to learn from Rebecca, and it's been wonderful. I'm all for one child. Everyone should have one child if they want a child, because that's really manageable.
Well, you're lucky.
Yeah, right. I could have missed that vote.
Yeah, right. That was close.
That was very close.
Uh-huh. How do you feel when you hear that?
I have mixed feelings. I think a couple of years ago I would hear that and feel a little bit nervous, a little anxious, a little as if I was a burden. I am a burden. I would be nervous about how much he loved me and how secure we were. But I've learned that I really don't have to worry about my mother's love, that her work demands a lot of her, and sometimes my role as a daughter is to just allow her to do that work and not to need so much from her. But I always feel secure in that love, that it's there.
Alice, when you say that you've learned from Rebecca, what does that mean?
Well, you know, I had no idea, first of all, what it was like to have a child in your body and then to give birth to a child. And when I had Rebecca, I was suddenly connected to all the mothers in the world, and I understood at last the struggle that most women have when they give birth. It hurts a lot, you know, it's very uncomfortable, it's a very difficult process, and there should be real ceremonies to celebrate this incredible creation of women. I mean, just the act of giving birth itself is a major miracle. And that's what I learned. I mean, when I saw Rebecca for the first time, I couldn't believe it. I really couldn't believe it. It just seemed impossible. But it happens every day. It happens every minute.
And that's so eloquent. Do you see any paradox between that and the fact that the two of you marched together for a woman's right to an abortion?
Oh, I think that, you know, we both feel that women have the right to control their own bodies, you know. I mean, because we also know that many women are forced to give birth when they don't want to. And they're forced to have 12 and 15 and 20 children, you know. I mean, we have known people, I have, who have had that many children, or who were the, you know, Fannie Lou Hamer, for instance, who was a fabulous civil rights leader, was one of 21 children. Now, what about her mother?
Well, you were the last of 8. What about your mother?
Exactly. Well, my mother was tired, and my mother would not have had 8 children if she had had a choice.
Isn't that kind of a chilling thought then?
Well, you know, like Rebecca in a way, it used to bother me a lot, because she would say, you know, I really wanted 6 children. She wanted 6 because her mother had 12. So she thought, well, 6, you know. So then she had 8. And I used to think, well, gee, you know, I'm here, and you know, maybe she really didn't want me and she didn't love me. But actually she did love me. And she did the best that she could. But I do sometimes wish that she had had birth control, that abortion had been, you know, free and easy, so that if she didn't want to have me, she wouldn't have had to, you know.
The tangible gifts that she gave you, the sewing machine, the typewriter, the suitcase, seemed like such an Independence Day gift.
Yeah.
How wonderful. What would you give Rebecca?
I would give Rebecca the truth. And that is why we have this conversation, you know, about how do you feel when your mother says that, you know, she had you and she was worried, and I can say that I felt divided. I mean, I can only tell her exactly, as much as I can, what it was like for me, you know, and I trust her to believe, you know, in my love. But I feel that the truth is what she absolutely has to have in order to survive and to flourish.
Now, tangibly, she gave me this '77 Chevy Nova and my education, I think, both of which will lead me to similar independence, I think.
Well, that really seems like the modern day version of a suitcase and a sewing machine.
I think so. With my Chevy Nova, I've begun to make a film at Yale.
About what?
About people of color, students of color. And with my education, who knows what I'll do, probably try to subvert it at some point. But those are good, tangible gifts.
Now, your mother has also written about colorism and the fact that the lighter you are, the better you will do. And she talked about how you will do better because you're lighter than she is. I think you used the phrase a mixed race child.
Yeah, when Rachel called me and told me that, I was shocked, and I hadn't read that ever, that you had said that.
Well, I think I learned that, you know, from people's response to you,
Right.
you know, because they, in a culture which affirms whiteness and lightness, I noticed that they could respond to you because you were lighter with much more delight and interest than they would respond to darker children.
You actually saw this happen.
Yes.
But I understood that.
But as you pointed out to me, Rebecca pointed out to me, that it's not necessarily true that makes it easier. In fact, it probably makes it as hard, if not harder, because there's so much hypocrisy that you have to see.
Yeah.
I mean, it can't make you feel good to feel that people can talk to you more easily because you're half white than they can talk to me because
Well,
I'm
now
not.
that you've planted it in her mind, have you thought about that before? I mean, did you have a sense of that kind of hypocrisy going on, that people were easier with you than perhaps with a darker?
With us, I don't think, but I see it in the world daily. It's not like it doesn't exist. I don't think I've ever felt it because people respond to you mostly so well.
Yeah.
But in the writing, I think you said that I'll go further than you ever could have gone. Is that what you said?
No.
That's what.
No. I think they were talking about one of the musicians in Georgia that we support. We have a scholarship fund, and someone once asked me whether, I think,
Yeah.
they asked me whether the saxophonist or some musician that we sponsored, whether her fame would be as big as mine. And I just said it would be much larger, but I don't think I've ever...
Because she was lighter?
Oh, no. It had
Oh.
nothing to do with, just because, what can you say when someone says to you, well, do you think her fame is going to be like yours? I mean, here she is, she's 17.
Speaking of fame, it always seemed to me that the kind of the chemistry between mothers and daughters was, well, beyond interesting. It was mysterious, certainly, to me as a husband and father and all. But it seems even more interesting when the mother is famous, which is less likely than sons having famous fathers in this society. What is your name in Yale, by the way?
My name in Yale?
Yeah, is it Rebecca Walker?
Yeah, Rebecca Walker.
Yeah.
I changed it 2 years ago
Why
from
did you
my
do-
father's last name. I felt much more connected to my mother than I did to my father, much more connected to my grandmother than to my father's father, who the name came down from, who disowned him when he was 8, who I feel no connection whatsoever with. And
Was that a feminist statement or just
Was it a
something
feminist
very
statement?
emotional? Or can you not separate?
I think it was probably both. I mean, a feminist statement was my statement. It was me. I guess I'm a feminist. But I'm all for starting a matriarchal or matrilineal line so that our mothers get more credit than they usually do. I don't think it's too mysterious if you being famous as my mom, or too different. It's exciting. I love the way people respond to you. And I guess I feel that we have a privacy and an intimacy that other people don't have, and I like that. But do you think there's anything exciting about you being a famous mother?
Well, I don't think of myself that way, I just think about trying to I want to be a really good mother to Rebecca, and I want to, give her whatever she needs that I have to help her along.
Do you still think you need to? I mean, she's 19 years old. She looks very together.
Well, I think I will always be her mother, and that there may be a few things here and there, along the way in my 40s that I can suggest or that I can point out or that I can share. I mean, I think where we are now, though, is more at the stage where we share as friends and equals. And that's great because
Well, the relationship is beginning to shift now. I mean, you're coming to a period, don't let me put words in your mouth, you're coming to a period where you're getting closer towards being sisters, perhaps, before you get very old and she becomes the mother and you become the daughter.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's that kind of cycle, isn't there?
And we're sisters, I mean, in every conceivable way. I mean, because we both understand that there's so much work for us to do as black women. And that's it's a real bond.
Well, what do you need to do as a black woman specifically? What does that mean?
Well, we have a lot of history to redress, for one thing, We have a lot of writing, and in Rebecca's case, possibly filmmaking, to sort of help ourselves and others see who we are, where we've been, where we're going.
Do you have hopes for her?
Oh, yeah. You know, my main hope is that she will continue to be a really good person. You know, that's you know, no matter what else she does, I think it is most important that she remain a really decent, caring, warm, loving, thoughtful person.
Rebecca, do you have hopes for your mother?
Yes. I hope that she remains healthy in this world where we all seem to have our bodies wearing down, that you can hold on to your strength.
Do you think about being a mother yourself? Mm-hmm. What do you think about it?
I can't wait to be a mother.
Mm-hmm.
I can't either.
Right.
You want to be a grandmother?
I do.
You're jumping ahead of this show.
Okay.
What do you think about it? I mean, why?
Well, I have reservations. I'm afraid, I think, to bring another person into the world. But I want to, because it'll be wonderful to see what I can produce first. You know, who is this person going to be? And surely the way I feel I've taught my mom things and have been here for her, someone else will be there for me and will be here to teach me things. I think a lot of women, it's something that we do, you know, having children.
But do you think you're ready to be a mother?
No. I think I need about 5 more years at least before I feel that I have the wisdom and the patience and I've established my own career and what I want to be doing before I can have a child.
Do you subscribe to your mother's theory that an artist should only have one child?
I'm not sure. I think I'll have to have one first before I know the answer to that. I think that I probably will once I see exactly how hard it is. And again, with the way the world is, I'm not sure if having 2 children, I mean, it would just be too much, it would seem.
Back to the abortion march, the two of you marching together, in terms of women taking control of their bodies. What does that mean in particular for black women?
Well, you know, we've had so many years, centuries really, when we had no control at all over how many children we had. That's why so many had 12 and 15 and 20. And then we had to watch these children really either sold away from us during the period of slavery, or, you know, we watch them even today having to perform in really terrible jobs or no jobs, you know. So it's like you keep producing children, and if you have no control over how many you can you know, you produce, you have even less control over what the world then gives to these children, or what they can give to it.
Because there's always the controversy that, one, the abortion rights movement is basically a white middle-class movement, and that, two, some people have kind of talked about that streak of genocide in groups that would have black women in particular use more birth control or use abortion. What's your feeling about that?
Well, you know, I think actually the abortion is a very good issue for white people because even though they may have fewer children, they use up most of the what is produced in the world. You know, someone pointed out that we are 6% of the population. I mean, speaking of the West, and we use up 60% of the world's energy. Now, most of that is really white people, you know, middle class and upper class white people. So they really should. I mean, it's very important for the planet that they limit the number of children that they produce, because we can't keep supporting, you know, big houses and cars and furs and whatever for all of these people. I mean, that's just a reality. But for black women, you know, black women work very hard. We do. We work and we support our families. And we cannot do that in good health if we have too many. We just can't. So it's not a question of genocide. It really is, for black women and for white women. It's a matter of caring about the planet, the limitations of resources, and the control that is necessary you know, for producing healthy children and having healthy families.
I guess, Rebecca, you agree with everything your mother says?
Yeah.
Did you know your grandmother?
Which one? My mother's
Your
mother?
mother's
yes,
mother.
she's still alive. I know her.
And could you tell us about your perceptions of Alice's relationship with her?
I think they're very similar to my relationship with Mom, except that we've had the chance to be more. I think that with my mom and her mom, because my grandmother worked so much, and because my mom, in order to sort of save herself, had to leave home and go to college, and then by the time she came back, it was just too hard to live in Georgia with my grandmother, that they never got quite the sense of the day-to-day knowing and experiencing and sharing with each other that we have. I think it's sad for both of us. I feel that I don't know my grandmother as well or as much as I would like to.
Well, don't you feel that a lot of women, like your grandmother, are not known either to their granddaughters or to history?
Yes.
In a sense, they've been lost. I mean, you've been so important in holding on to that, what was an oral history that would be lost in your books.
Because I couldn't stand it that my mother was being left behind and ignored, and nobody even knew she existed, or if they had any inkling, it was just a facade. I mean, they never saw this great woman, and it was, you know, they were impoverished because of that. And I just couldn't stand it. I had to bring my mother along with me.
And, I mean, the history that you learn at Yale, with all due respect, is really basically a white
Male,
man's history.
Eurocentric, yes,
Yeah.
it is. It really
How do you
is.
feel about that? I mean, certainly
It makes
from
me very
your,
angry. Yeah. I do as much as I can to try to get more studies of our people included in the curriculum, more faculty members of color teaching the classes, more students of color in the school. But it's very hard. I mean, Yale is like a monolith that you keep banging against, saying, change, change, you must, you must. But slowly, I think we're making progress there.
Yeah. Well, how do you feel about your daughter in kind of a monument to the white patriarchy?
Well, it was her choice. We went around to lots of places, and I think when we got to Yale, there was a fake shanty. You know, they had a symbolic South African shanty built in one of the quads, and there was a lot of political activity, I mean, apparently, and there were a lot of people, and you know, it was her decision. And I think we both understand that sometimes what you learn in these institutions is not what they're teaching. I mean, you in a way, you know, when we study essentially their history, we don't look for facts, we look for clues. And that is what you do. I mean, you go into these institutions and you learn all kinds of things, but it's not necessarily what's in the curriculum.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you started out at a black women's college, Spelman, and then you went to a white women's college,
Sarah Lawrence. Right.
I mean, your experience was somewhat different.
Well, I didn't have a choice, you know. I went where I could go, and I had absolutely no money. You know, everything was on scholarship, and without the scholarships, I would not have been able to go.
Well, what were the clues that you learned, or that you found in those places?
Well, for instance, when I went to Spelman, which is a black college, there was one copy of Black Reconstruction by W.E.B. Du Bois. One copy. It was battered beyond description. And it was locked behind, you know, it was in the rare books section of the library, which means you couldn't take it out. Now, in all of Atlanta, you know, this was probably the only book on Reconstruction that I would be able to read and feel anything about, you know, what happened to black people during the Civil War and after. So that taught me a lot, you know. It taught me that I would have to struggle really, really hard to find these books, find these records, and affirm these lives that are, you know, at the time were ignored in black colleges as well as in white.
It sounds like you got an attitude more than an education.
Well, I got what I needed to continue my own work.
Where would you send your daughter, based on what you know now?
I think I would probably send her to Yale or to Spelman, whichever she chose. I think that Yale has awful things about it, and it's a very difficult place to be for us. But it is, when you think relatively, probably one of the most liberal, as a lot of people on campus like to say, campuses around.
We're running out of time. We're almost out of time. Do you have any advice for daughters on Mother's Day?
Daughters on Mother's Day. Talk to your mother. Ask her where she's been, what she wants to tell you. Try to be as true to yourself and to her mother as you can be.
Are you glad to hear that?
Oh, I'm very glad. Yeah.
Advice for daughters and mothers?
Well, think of the future generations. Let every decision be a decision in the Native American tradition of thinking about the 7th generation.
Alice Walker, Rebecca Walker, happy Mother's Day. Thanks very much for being with us. This is the 11th Hour. I'm Robert Lipsyte.
Funding for the 11th Hour was made possible by grants from the Robert Wood Johnson Jr. Charitable Trust, the Geraldine R. Dodge Foundation, the Vincent Astor Foundation, the Jacob Burns Foundation, and by the members of 13.